Hey, welcome to this video where I want to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart, and a topic that I honestly believe that if everyone adopted would help to drastically minimize error within the aircraft maintenance environment. To introduce this topic, let me take you back to the summer of 2005. I was in my 20s and had gone to Long Island, New York to take my airframe and power plant exams, the oral and practical. I travelled from my home city of Norwich in the UK and spent the summer revising and getting ready for the tests. And I remember clearly sitting the writtens and then prepared to spend a whole day in a hangar with the oral and practical examiner. What a day that was, one I will never forget. After completing the oral part of the day, my examiner was very good at digging into the areas that I appeared slightly weak in to really validate my knowledge. I was then given multiple tasks in the adjoining hangar to complete, and one included carrying out a full airframe and engine visual inspection on a Robertson R-22 helicopter that had previously lifted off the ground and then settled on its side. As you can imagine, it had plenty of defects that kept me busy for hours. So, at the end of the day, my examiner called me into his office. He debriefed me on the day, and then, as he congratulated me on passing, he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a small credit card sized card. Handing it to me, he said, "Sam, you need to always remember your FAA maintenance personal minimums." He said, "Familiarize yourself with this card as it gives you some great questions to consider before you begin a task and then after you've completed the task." Well, in all honesty, I came back to the UK, continued working for the light aircraft company I'd done my apprenticeship at, and I didn't really consider my personal minimums much at all. That was until a few years later when I was working for a large maintenance repair organisation and I was instructing in their technical college. There I'd been asked to create an inspection standards course, and as part of this course I managed to get a hold of a whole stack of these personal minimum cards from the FAA, and I began to hand them out to the mechanics and the engineers coming through the course. This is when I really started to consider the importance of such a small card. So, let me talk to you just for a few minutes about these cards and about the 18 questions that can make a massive difference between minimalising maintenance error and not. Okay, so the card has two sides. It has a side that says before the task and a side that says after the task. This card I hold is one that we have developed, over the past couple of years, and we have been committed to giving them out to every person who attends any of our classroom-based face-to-face training sessions, along with some pens that we've created as well that say remember your personal minimums written on them. And we created these cards based on the FAA ones because there was an extra question or an extra thing that we wanted to write, statement we wanted to write at the bottom, which I'll come to in a moment. So let's go through the questions on the first page. Imagining that you've just been asked to carry out a task. Now it could be a routine task, could be a critical task, or a brand new task. The questions here are relevant to each situation. Let's look at the before the task ones. Ask yourself, do I have the required knowledge to perform the task? Do I have the approved data required for the task? Have I been properly trained for the task? Am I mentally prepared to perform the task? That's a really important one because now we're talking about human factors here. We're thinking about our mental state. You know, have we just had an argument or something the night before? How's that maybe affecting us? Am I physically prepared to perform the task? Have I taken the proper safety precautions required for the task? Am I in compliance with the regulations and procedures? And this is where we started to add one. Am I prepared to say stop if I feel I need to after the task, just by turning over the card? Once I've finished it, I'm going to ask myself these questions. Did I perform the task to the best of my abilities? Was the task carried out in accordance with approved data? Did I use all methods and practices acceptable in the industry? Did I perform the task without pressure, stress and distraction? That's an interesting one because I think for the most part we're always under some sort of pressure, and the more experienced we become, the more distracted we can become because people come to ask us based on our experience how to do things or ask us questions. Did I re-inspect before returning to service? Have I completed all the applicable paperwork correctly? Did I perform an operational check if required? Have I returned all tooling to its correct storage? And the last one, I love this last one. Am I willing to fly in the aircraft once it's approved to return to service? Now, I had somebody in a recent class session say to me, Sam, can we change that last one? I was like, yeah, sure. Well, let's give it some thought. What suggestion have you got? And he said, am I willing to fly, or am I willing to put my mother-in-law in the aircraft once I approve it to return to service? I said, well, how well do you get on with your mother-in-law? Anyway, you see, the importance of these cards. We all have our own personal minimums. Those things that we are uncompromising on. Now, some of us may be quite happy to see grey areas when we're working and take the chance, whereas others of us might not be comfortable with this and always seek to work by the book. The power of these personal minimum cards and the questions on them is that they prompt you to think about all these questions in advance of ever being in a situation where you might be tempted to compromise and do something that you wouldn't usually do. They are designed to capture an error-provoking situation before it's even had a chance to arise. That's why I like these cards. And that's why I think actually there's a lot of power in these. Even if you don't whip it out and have a look at it before every single task and after every single task, just the very act of looking through and reading through the questions and thinking, how would I, think back to your last task. Did I really perform it to the best of my knowledge? Did I have all the approved data? Was I properly trained? Was I mentally prepared? These are fantastic questions. Personally, I think that these questions are really good at prompting conversation too. They stop you and make you think about how you carry out your job every day. In recent human factors training that I facilitated at a large MRO, we took incidents that happened in that environment and we then turned them into scenario-based activities and had small groups consider the human factors and safety-related behaviours that had contributed to the negative outcome of that incident. And I always ended every conversation by pulling out the personal minimum card and asking which of the questions would have changed the outcome of each scenario. And without fail, there were usually 5 to 6 of these questions, either before or after the task, that would have captured the potential error and changed the outcome for good. So why don't you give it a try for yourself? Take a look at the personal minimums card on the screen now and think back to a maintenance task you were involved in that did not go according to plan. Which one of these questions might have caught this before you'd even started the task? And which questions would have made you stop and think after the task? On a final note, as a pilot, we're encouraged to establish and set our own personal minimums around when we would fly and when we would not. And this is based on many factors. And we're encouraged that even though it may be legal to fly and within the regulations, if you don't feel comfortable, stop and then reconsider the next course of action that you're about to take. And I encourage you to stop for a moment right now and consider your personal maintenance minimums. What happens next time you don't have the correct tooling and you're feeling pressure to get the aircraft out on time? How will you respond to the pressure that is building up from being a supervisor and you're taking on more and more and probably more tasks than you can adultly commit your time to? Something's going to give in these situations, and yes, you might get away with it and nothing negative happens. No error creeps in. However, that is not a given and not a certainty. Think through now, when you're not feeling under pressure, how you'll respond when you are feeling that pressure and are feeling that stress. Then you'll be minimalising the potential for error and that will contribute to a safer working environment. Thanks for watching. Be blessed. Have a great day. Let me know in the comments sections what you think about personal minimums and how you might be able to put them into play in your life. Thanks a lot. Take care.